So let's take what we've learned, create a scene, and then create an animation. Let's start by creating a floor for our scene. I'm going to select a box. In my top view, I'm going to click and drag to create the footprint of the box, and then extrude it just a little bit. That'll be my floor, and I'm going to name it Floor. Now I'm going to create some walls. I'm going to zoom out in my left top view and my front view. Select box again. And in my left view, I'm going to draw a wall. I'm going to extrude it just a little bit. Then I'm going to use the Select and Move Transform tool and move it to one side. Holding down the Shift key, I'm going to click and drag, again with the Select and Move tool, to copy or clone my object on the other side. And I'm going to call it Wall 2. I can select my first wall and call it Wall 1. Now I'm going to create a back wall. I'm going to do this in the front view, again by creating a box. Click and drag to create the footprint in the front view, and then extrude it just a little bit and finish the object. And use the Select and Move Transform tool to move it back, and then name it right here, Back Wall. Now I'm going to poke a hole in the back wall for a door. I'm going to select a box, click and drag to create the door, and extrude it. And I'll call this Door Knockout, because I'm going to use it to knock a hole in the wall. But before I do that, I'm going to hold down the Shift key and clone this and call it Door. And just move it aside for a second. Now I'm going to move the Door Knockout back to the wall here, like so. I'm going to select the back wall, click on the Create panel, and under the Geometry, select Compound Objects, click on Boolean, and I'm going to pick operand B and choose my knockout object, and you can see it pokes a hole in the wall for a door. Once I've done that, I can take my door object and place it in the hole I've just cut. Now we talked about changing the center point of an object. Right now the center point of my door is right dab smack in the middle of the door. I want to change it so it's at the hinge point, so my door can open like a regular door. To do that, I'm going to go to the Hierarchy panel, click on Pivot, and I'm going to affect the pivot only, and I'm going to zoom in my top view, and then pan with the hand tool, and I'm going to move the pivot for the door right to the corner there, so that when I rotate my object, it rotates from that point. So let's try that out. Let's try opening our door by pivoting it, rotating it in the top view. Pretty cool, huh? We've created our room. What next? Well, let's put some objects into the room. Click back on the Create panel, go back to our standard primitives, and let's create a box. And we'll zoom out in our top view so we can see the whole floor of the room. Now I'm going to create a table using the box primitive object type. Click and drag to select the shape of our table. Extrude it just a little bit. use the Select and Move tool to move it in the left view, just off the ground, like so. Now we're going to use the cylinder to create legs for our table. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here in my top view using the Region Zoom tool. Select cylinder, drag the cylinder, extrude it up to our table. And now I'm going to zoom out a little bit in my top view, just enough so I can see the whole tabletop. And I'm going to clone that leg to the other corners. Hold down the Shift key, select and Move tool, click and drag to make a copy. Leg 2. Hold down the Shift key, click and drag to clone again. And finally, click and drag with the Shift key down one more time to create the last leg of the table. Click OK. We now have a table in a room with a door that works. Now let's add a scientific apparatus to the table. We can have something animated going on in this scene. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on my left view using the Region Zoom tool. And I'm going to do the same in my front view. I'm going to create another box. This time I'm going to create the box on the table. This is going to serve as the platform for our apparatus. And extrude it a little bit. Use the Select and Move tool. Right-click on the Select and Move tool. And move it in the Z direction, just to the top of the table. Click on the Modify panel and change the height of the object. Now we're going to go back to our Create panel, grab a cylinder, and draw our cylinder. Right-click on the Select and Move tool and move it up in the Z-axis. Now I'm going to clone this object. Hold down the Shift key, click and drag, and rotate it. And move it. Then select this bottom cylinder here, modify it so that its length is a little longer. Now let's zoom in on this apparatus. Go to the Create panel, select Torus, and we're going to draw a torus right here at the top. Now we're going to click on our Array button at the top of the toolbar here, and we're going to create an array in the Y direction. Make this 6 units. Click OK, and we have a chain. We can actually get rid of some of these links because we have too many. Just click and delete, click and delete, click and delete. Now create a sphere, like so. Now, go up to your toolbar, select and link tool, and link your ball to the different links of the chain, all the way up the chain until you get to the top. Like so. Now let's group our objects. I'm going to start by zooming out, my top view, my left view, and I'm going to select the walls and floor and the door and group them and call them room. Then I'm going to zoom out in my front view Select my table, group it, now I'm going to select my apparatus stand and group it. Now I'm going to unhide all. I'm going to turn on the animation toggle, and I'm going to animate with inverse kinematics on. I'm going to animate this swinging ball apparatus. Zoom by region, click and drag the time bar, then I'll click and drag time again and move my apparatus over here. Click and drag again, move my apparatus back, and click and drag again and move it back to the middle. Turn off the animation toggle, return to the first frame, click the animation toggle again, select my door or my room object, go to the group menu, select open, click on the door object, move my time marker to 15, 20, go to the rotate tool, and in the top view, start to open my door, move ahead in time, open the door all the way, move ahead in time, start to close the door, and at the end of the animation have the door closed all the way. Turn off your animation toggle, and let's take a look at what we have. We have an apparatus swinging in the room. The door opens and closes. In the next lesson, we're going to surface this whole scene.